Some of you have been telling me to check out the Dragon Ball horror AU created by Kenzo Kumada, and this one is actually very well done. It's basically like a mix between the Mandela catalogs, analog horror, and Dragon Ball Z. And in the video, I'm going to do my best to explain what I think is happening here. Now, the series starts out with the scene of Garlic Jr. being sucked into the dead zone after Gohan destroyed the Macula Star, which some of you may not remember if you didn't watch Dragon Ball Z back in the day. The Garlic Jr. saga was a filler arc that dropped in like 1991 in Japan and I think somewhere in like the mid 2000s in America. But the important part here is that when Garlic Jr. was sucked into the dead zone, a race of creatures called the Deadites were able to escape. And these creatures seem to be able to take the form of specific Z fighters and powerful figures on the planet in general. And we see this here with Kami and King Piccolo. This version of King Piccolo is a Deadite or a clone, and he's come to merge and take over the life of Kami. But this duo right here confused a lot of people, mainly because in a way, Kami and King Piccolo are the same person, but split into two different beings. Kami is all good, while King Piccolo is all evil. And to add another layer of complexity, when King Piccolo died, he made it to where his soul will be reincarnated into his son, Piccolo, which basically passed over all his memories and power. And while this may seem like unnecessary information for this horror AU, it will make more sense when we see Piccolo later, and also it will help explain why he plays such a large role in this AU. After that, we move over to Goku's house and we see he is chowing down with Goten and Trunks when they suddenly hear this announcement on the TV.
You see another person that looks identical to you. Run away and hide.
He then gets this image of Piccolo telling him to run, and Goku does not hesitate. He grabs his family and Trunks and he instant transmissions out of there, taking them to Kami's house. He then leaves to figure out why he's sensing his own key signature out in the world, and almost immediately after his departure, we see Jenna grab Goten from behind. But before she can do any real damage to him, Chi-Chi karate chops her chin off, reminding us that this woman does not play about her family. We then see that Trunks pulls up and gives her a key blast to the face, showing us that these three are probably going to be alright. Next, we see Goku find his way to his other key signatures, and what he finds really surprised me. I thought it was just going to be a copy of himself, but this right here is his father, I believe. This version of Goku here is actually Captain Ginyu, or rather when Captain Ginyu took over Goku's body, which is why we can see his horns popping out here. And the one in the back here, I'm pretty sure is Goku Black. And to make matters worse, they even added the child version of Goku, Goten, and Goku Jr. as a way to really pull out his heartstrings. But since it's Goku, he doesn't really care if they're grown people or children, he's still giving them the One Piece. But seeing that these things are fairly resilient and that they're going to be a real threat, Goku gets serious and goes into his Ultra Instinct form, which is something that Goku almost never does, meaning that he never goes straight to his top form. But even though Goku is locked in, it seems like he almost immediately gets knocked out of his form. And in that moment of confusion, one of the clones is able to get a glancing blow on Goku's chest. But more importantly, we see that he can't even go Super Saiyan now. And the kids waste no time taking advantage of that fact, raining blows down on Goku. And that goes on until Ginyu Goku steps up to give him a 1v1. And I have to point out that the movement of this character was so creepy. The creator did a good job with that little moment. Now, as we see Captain Ginyu close the gap on Goku, we see Goku power up a blast in his hand, but Captain Ginyu chomps down on his arm, actually leading to one of the sickest execution scenes I've ever seen. We then see Goku Black go Super Saiyan Blue, and I know a lot of people are wondering why he didn't go Rose. And the only thing I can think of is that this doppelganger doesn't have access to Zamasu. If I remember correctly, Goku Black can only obtain the Rose form when he fuses with Zamasu, or I guess like any god would work, but he definitely needs that in order to reach that level. But even without that form, Goku knows that he's pretty much cooked at this point, so he calls in Nimbus to carry him away, which was low-key nostalgic as hell for me. And before the episode ends, we see Goku send a message to Piccolo telling him to take care of Gohan. And it doesn't surprise me that Goku reached out to Piccolo first, because I don't care what anybody says. Piccolo is more of Gohan's father than Goku is. So if there is anyone that's going to keep Gohan safe and his family safe, more importantly, we know that it's going to be Piccolo. Now, while Goku is flying away, we cut over to Gohan's house and see him having a conversation with his daughter, who is upset with the fact that she wasn't able to have a sleepover with Marin and Bula. But Gohan is a good dad and he's able to calm her down with some of that gentle parenting. Now, while Pan is sleeping, we see that she gets a visitor. And after that encounter, she lets out a scream, understandably, which alerts her parents. But when Gohan gets upstairs, she freaks out even more, thinking that he's turned into some kind of spider monster. And sometimes I forget just how strong this girl is, but considering that she is Gohan's daughter, I shouldn't be surprised. Now, luckily her mother is able to calm her down, but Gohan has noticed that she was terrified of something. And while he's contemplating this, they hear the phone start to ring downstairs. And funny enough, we see that the alternate version of Gohan picks up the phone and starts speaking with Chi-Chi. And even more surprisingly, he's speaking to her normally. Chi-Chi has no idea that this isn't her kid. And I think this is an important point that I'm going to come back to in a moment. Next, we see Videl come downstairs holding Pan, and she sees the Deadite Gohan look at her and screams for Gohan. And when he gets downstairs, his alternate version doesn't look scared at all. And when Gohan tells his family to run, Alt Gohan says that he would never hurt his family. And this is the first point where this AU takes an interesting turn for me, because I actually believe this character when he said he wouldn't hurt his family, especially when he's apologizing for scaring Pan. And then he gives us a bit of lore, saying, I was born to be complete. My whole mission, my reason to exist is to defeat you, to replace you, to be you. And for what I've seen so far, this character really thinks that he is Gohan in a way. We see it in the way that he didn't hurt Pan because he feels like that is his real daughter, or in a way that he had that casual conversation with Chi-Chi because he feels like that is his real mother. Then he points out how he and real Gohan are both anomalies because Gohan is half human, half Saiyan, while he was made to be Gohan and Yamcha. But I think what he really meant to say was Gohan or Yamcha, because he obviously couldn't be both, considering that he had to take out Yamcha so that he could become Gohan.
Another person that looks identical to you, run away and hide.
And honestly, I hate that my boy Yamcha didn't get a chance to shine in this AU. When I was a kid, he was still like an active character in the series and one of my favorites. And I feel like if Chi-Chi can put in work here, Yamcha would definitely be able to do something. After that, we see Gohan is ready to throw down, and it becomes clear very quickly that he is absolutely outmatched by this monster. And my theory right now is that the clones have an advantage over their originals because they are able to actually affect their ki somehow. It almost seems like they're absorbing it, making themselves stronger, while their originals get weaker the longer that the battle goes on. And to make matters worse, it even seems like the originals are locked out of using some of their more powerful transformations as well, which is why Goku got knocked out of his Ultra Instinct. But on the other hand, we saw that Chi-Chi and Trunks in the beginning were able to take out Gina fairly easily. And while she isn't really strong, I think her power level is around like 1000. Based on how all these other clones are doing against Goku and Gohan, you would think that she would be able to fight off some of the weaker fighters. But she was absolutely destroyed, which is why I believe that the clones only get this power boost and ki absorption against their originals. And this is like a way to help them complete their mission of taking over that life. Now, after breaking Gohan's arm, we see that the clone is about to absorb him, but then the GOAT makes his appearance. And you can tell just by looking at him here that something's off, but he tells Gohan to run, no questions asked. And even though Gohan wants to help, he listens and he gets out of dodge. Now, when Clone Gohan gets out of the rubble, he makes a comment to Piccolo where he says the both of you are more of an anomaly. Better yet, an atrocity, implying that even though Piccolo is also a clone, there's something more complex happening with him. And then the two of them prepare for a death battle. The first thing that caught my eye in this fight is the fact that Clone Gohan says that they need to take the fight outside because he doesn't want to damage his house, which is building this case for him actually caring about his family and his life in general that he's going to be taking from Gohan. Now, while I won't show every part of this fight, I will say that it was excellent, with Piccolo having to slice off his own arm at one point, going hand to hand for a bit, and eventually using a bit of a fake out move to take Clone Gohan off guard, which is very smart. Piccolo knew that Clone Gohan was aware of his fighting style and all his moves, so trickery was the best way to put him down quickly. After that, we get a look at what Piccolo really is, and this confirms that while he may not be the same as Clone Gohan, he is definitely not the original Piccolo. Piccolo then allows Gohan some final words, and we learn that even though Clone Piccolo completed his mission years ago, since he has had like so much more time on the planet, he seems to feel differently than the other invaders. He doesn't believe that what they're doing is right or that they belong here at all, and he has taken it upon himself to make sure that the invaders don't win. But this is where it gets sad for me. Clone Gohan actually understands what Piccolo is saying and responds with, "At least it was fun feeling kind of alive." He also speaks about how beautiful this world is, and we get to see all the memories that he has inherited from Gohan. And as he has this flashback, he actually begins to cry, even asking Piccolo to protect him at the end. And this was such a deep line for me because in essence, he's asking Piccolo to protect him since he believes in a way that he is Gohan. And then Piccolo responds by saying, "Like I always did," meaning that he was always there to protect Gohan. And I think this also gives us a glimpse into why Clone Piccolo is a good guy here. Piccolo has always looked out for Gohan, right? So it would make sense that the clone version of him would also want to look after Gohan as well. Now, before Piccolo sends Gohan to the afterlife, he tells him, "You did your best. Be proud." And that line really reminded me of Sukuna's "Hokore. Omae wa tsuyoi." After taking out Gohan, we see that Piccolo is having a conversation with himself, or the body snatcher inside of him, which at this moment I assume is Kami, because we know eventually these two do merge together in the original show, because Piccolo is the reborn version of King Piccolo, aka Kami's other half. We then see Gohan run over to him, and he immediately gets that choke work. But Piccolo is able to get himself under control, and he reveals a bit of what's going on to Gohan. And in his flashback, we of course see him aura farming because it's Piccolo, that's kind of what he does. But that comes to an end very quickly when he's hit with some severe head pain, and it seems like his father is speaking to him. And I know we see an image of Kami here, but technically Kami is as much as Piccolo's father as King Piccolo was. And Kami is telling Piccolo that he needs to take control and to watch out behind him, where we see this. Nando. So after that scene, we get confirmation that once Piccolo fused with Kami back in the day, that version of Kami was a clone. And I assume that just like Gohan, that clone also truly cared about Piccolo and the other people on the planet, which is why he fused with Piccolo and allowed himself to lie dormant for so long. And the reason that he woke up was to stop the Piccolo body snatcher from completing his mission. And now that Piccolo's clone is dead, it means that he is likely the person best equipped to fight the clones, since I believe my theory about doppelgangers being strongest against their original is still true. We also get confirmation that the fight with Garlic Jr. opened the door to the dead zone and allowed these creatures called Deadites to make it through. And with this new knowledge, Gohan and his family team up with Piccolo to go find the rest of the Z Fighters. After that scene, we see Broly sitting in his home watching TV, and then he gets a phone call from this green chick named Chilia. And while Broly is having this conversation, elsewhere, we see that Bulma is dropping her daughter off to be babysat by Krillin and 18. And after some funny banter with them, Bulma sets off to meet up with Vegeta and take advantage of their child-free night and maybe have a little bit of a date. And while Vegeta is supposed to be getting ready for that date, he of course is training. But he does agree to actually go out with his wife because as cranky as he acts, Vegeta truly does love his wife. Then we cut back over to Bulma, and then we see that this woman appears in her back seat, and then we're hit with this scene. This creature now has her by the neck and causes her to crash the car, but not before taking her body. And back at Vegeta's home, we see that he is still getting ready, but then he sees this in his bathroom mirror. Then he has to go toe-to-toe with baby Vegeta, who gets a good punch in almost immediately. But surprisingly, Vegeta is able to go Super Saiyan and even get a few hits in, but that doesn't last long, with baby mimicking him and then uppercutting the spit out of him. While Vegeta is up on the roof, he gets a message from Goku telling him to get his family to safety and then flee. But we all know that Vegeta isn't going to run without putting up a little bit more of a fight. And seeing that this is going to be serious, he goes Super Saiyan Blue. And he seems to be able to take out one of the clones temporarily, although I don't think it's dead, but his fight with Baby was not as easy. We even see Vegeta say here that the clone is getting much stronger while he's losing power, which also kind of confirms the theory that I had earlier as well. And at this point, even though Vegeta knew that he was kind of losing this fight, he still powers up one final time to try to use Final Flash, only to have his power sapped away again. And then we see Baby copy his move and blow up his home, forcing Vegeta to realize that he's completely outmatched. We also see a clone of his father pop up and also young Vegeta, similar to what we saw with Goku. But I do find it interesting that Vegeta had fewer clones show up for him than Goku did. I think Goku had 6 while Vegeta only had 4, but I'll speak more about this after we look at Broly. Now, after Vegeta flies away from his clones, he sees Bulma's car burning on the road. And when he looks up, he sees his wife. She's obviously a clone now and has been severely burned by the fire. And while initially Vegeta is furious and grabs her by the neck, he cannot hold that anger, partly because this creature looks so much like his wife and also because she simply isn't strong. I'm pretty sure that Vegeta could feel her defenselessness here and he had to let her go. And the pain that both of these characters are going through right now is heartbreaking because this clone version of Bulma likely believes that she is the real Bulma by now, and she just got choked out by her husband while she is burnt to hell. And as for Vegeta's part, he knows that this thing isn't his wife, but he also can't be sure, and he can't bear the idea of like ending her life, because what if his wife is still in there and he can actually save her somehow? I truly don't envy this situation at all. After that, we cut back over to Broly and we see that his conversation gets cut short because there is someone behind him. And when he turns around, he sees his face. What's good? And just like with Gohan, he tries to fight his clone and it seems to have the upper hand, but instead of engaging in combat, the clone's face goes blank and he lets Broly go and starts to point behind him at Bio Broly, who also looks like he's about to attack, but then he just stands down as well. And lastly, we see Kale grip onto his leg, making this crazy face and causing Broly to break away and charge up. But before he can actually attack her, he stops, noting that not only is she afraid, but she's also crying. We then get this flashback where Goku is telling Broly that he needs to learn how to master his power so that he is less likely to hurt the people that he loves. And it seems like Kale's tears plus the memory of Goku is enough to stop him from attacking his clones. He realizes that they're not being hostile towards him, and as he's trying to think of a plan, he hears their stomachs start to rumble, and then his own. We then get this weirdly wholesome moment where Broly is like cooking in the kitchen for all his clones, while Kale is hanging off his arm, Bio Broly is shyly peeking around the corner here, and the OG Broly is watching TV. It's almost like Broly is a single dad just doing his best out here. And at the end of the video, we see that Goku touches down finally, but then it fades to black. The next episode opens with Broly pulling the food out of the oven and sitting down around the table with his clones to eat. And judging by the looks on their faces and how they devour this food, it kind of shows that they love it, first of all, but it also may be the first meal that they've actually had while being on Earth. We even see Kale takes Broly's food. After the meal, Broly is trying to figure out like who or what these people are, and Kale simply points to each of the clones and says Broly, showing that they are all versions of him. And even though some people will argue that Kale is an original character, we all know that she is basically the female Broly. We also see Broly have a flashback about his father, and I think this is to show that they all kind of share his memories, but also as a way to remind us that Broly did not have a happy life really. And I think that this may be why his clones are so chill. The rest of the Z Fighters have lived full lives, have happy memories, children, friends, while Broly is just now starting to have a decent life. So I think that they're so docile because Broly doesn't really have a life worth snatching. I also think that his potential to turn into a mindless brute plays a role in this as well. I think that a fight with his clones could easily end with the world being destroyed, simply because none of them can probably control their temper or power. We then get this scene of Broly trying to teach his clones other words like mother, brother, sister, and then we see Kel point to each of the Brolys, proclaiming that they're all brothers, which is kind of a cute moment if we're being honest. But then there's a knock on the door that ruins this moment, making all the clones turn hostile in a heartbeat. And then we see that Vegeta and Goku stumble into the house, beat to hell. And for a moment, it looks like the clones are going to attack them, but then they start to see Broly's memories with Vegeta and Goku, and this calms them down, adding another layer of complexity to these clones. After that, we see Goku and Vegeta pop a couple of sensu beans, getting themselves back to full power. And then they make the observation that Broly's clones are nothing like the ones that they had to face. But this moment of peace is broken when Vegeta remembers that both his children are unaccounted for, and he needs to go make sure that they are safe, because he can't lose his wife and his children in the same night. Now, my theory right now is that since the Deadites share the memory of their originals, some of them are not going to be able to fight alongside their kin. What I mean by this is that I don't think Broly's clones will be able to attack Goku or Vegeta simply because they have too many good memories of them, just like clone Gohan wasn't able to hurt Pan or Videl. I imagine that there will be a time where some of the clones will side with the Z Fighters and help them clear out the Deadites that can't be reasoned with. And then the allied Deadites will be allowed to actually stay on Earth and live alongside everyone. Or at least that's my hope. After realizing that these creatures are not just mindless body snatchers, but rather creatures who can think, reason, and feel, I hope that some of them have a happy ending. But I can say for certain, since Goku has clones like Goku Black and Vegeta has clones like Baby Vegeta, they are definitely going to at least have to fight those two to the bitter end. I don't think there's any way that those characters will relate or care about any of the other characters. And just those two alone will put up a very good fight. But we'll have to just wait and see what happens in the next episode. But with that being said, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out this video on the screen here. Subscribe today, become a member of the Orse Force, and we will see you tomorrow with another one. Peace, peace.